Yo, YouTube, what is good, boys? I'm back making a War Within Season 2 Arcane Mage guide. Now, the reason I've chosen Arcane Mage to make this guide around is I think it's the strongest out of all three of the mage specs right now. I think it's the most consistent, to be honest with you guys. I think Frost is also really high up there. I think Frost is like just under Arcane, although, you know, this isn't set in stone information, but Arcane Mage has received a lot of tuning over the course of the War Within so far, namely this Undermine patch, the second season. And while there has been a lot of nerfs to certain talents on the spec, there's been quite a bit of compensation at the same time, and these compensating buffs turned out to be just a little bit better than what we had before. So Arcane Mage is a very fun spec. It's very high, high intensity, high APM, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts, and it's probably seen as the most complex mage spec, and I mean, it can be. It definitely is, I think. Is it like as rocket sciencey as people, make it out to be? In my opinion, no. But then again, I'm also a mage player who's been playing mage for a very long time. But I think after this video, hopefully you guys have some sort of takeaway on how to play the spec a little bit better. Is the spec for you? Well, it's a very highly mobile spec revolved around doing huge amounts of burst damage in a certain window, and then a little bit, a fall off with, outside of your touch of the Magi goes, basically. And also it's, yeah, so like I said, it's very highly mobile because you have, blink, displace, alter, lots of utility as well to knock melees and stuff off you, lots of micro kind of interrupts, if you will, blast wave and supernova if you play that, DB even, just to like stop cast and stuff. And yeah, it's a very fast spec. So what I mean by that is you're kind of pressing a lot of buttons at all times, right? Like you want to get your 5 barrages up, you want to constantly spell steal a target, stuff like this. So it's like there's pretty much a global to be pressed at all times. There's going to be very little downtime where you're actually sitting here not pressing any buttons. And that could be said for every spec, but with Arcane you have a lot of spammables. So it's just kind of more spammy than other specs. For Arcane Mage, it's also kind of known as like the most immortal of the 3 mage specs, just due to a lot of different things. One is going to be your OP barrier, the second one is going to be chrono shift, and then the third one is going to be just the way that your barrier is, essentially, and all the movement speed that you can get on the spec as well. So that's sort of like the breakdown, and let's get right into kind of the specifics at this point. So racials, Night Elf is still just going to be the best race for PvP most of the time if you guys can play Night Elf. So for Mage, there isn't really like a good alternative. There's like decent alternatives, but a lot of what you'll be playing as Mage, if you want to be as competitive as possible, is Night Elf. There are some hipster picks, like you could pick Void Elf. Void Elf has the extra portal, which can be nice. It also has the no spell pushback on melee attacks, which can also be nice at times. I think it's a little unneeded. I'll go over why I think Shadow Meld is so strong. Basically, if you guys don't know how Shadow Meld works, anytime there's a projectile in the game, basically being casted at you, it is something that is meldable. And when you Shadow Meld something that's in the air and coming at you, let's take a Chaos Bolt for example, I suppose, is you can basically just nullify the fact that it goes off. So let me go Frost here for a second just to show you guys what I mean. So let's just, for example's sake, say that this mage here, Aeghis, is a Destro Lock, because Destro Locks are kind of on the come up right now. So yeah, let's just say that you're fighting Destro, right? And you're playing Shadow Meld. Well, if we're on the other mage, right, and this guy's casting a Chaos Bolt at us, we can meld it while it's in the air. Basically, any point from it being in the air to coming at you, you can shadow meld this projectile, and it'll, as you can see, it didn't root me, it didn't do any damage to me. It's like the glacial spike never existed, basically. And that's the biggest reason why shadow meld is so good. So yeah, you can basically avoid damage with shadow meld, like a lot of damage. And it also enables you to play the game a lot more. So you can do the same thing with something like a Stormbolt or a Mortal Coil, for example. You know, all these CCs that have projectiles, you can meld those as well. And it's definitely a skillful racial, one that I wouldn't recommend picking up if you're a newer player, because it's something that's going to be hard to do unless your rotation and most of your ability pressing is on autopilot already. You know, if I'm sitting here and melding is not really in my vocabulary, right? It's not really like melding CC or melding damage is not really in my already given skill set. And also damage is not really in my you know, like arsenal of kind of being on autopilot. It's gonna be very difficult, I think, to focus on like what's happening with your character and like what modifiers you have and what damage you're casting. It's gonna be very difficult to think about all these things at once. So if you're a newer player, what I recommend is you play either Orc or Human or Void Elf. But if you want to play your most competitive race, it's going to be Night Elf. All I'm saying with that little preface there is that it is a hard racial to use correctly. But once you understand how it works and you've done it a couple times, it gets substantially easier. Another thing that's really nice is, let's say you give like someone precog, right? So if I gave this mage precog and then he started casting sheep, you can just meld to like stop his immunity, and then you have a chance to basically avoid whatever it is coming your way via spellcast whenever you give the enemy precog. So yeah, can avoid CC, can avoid damage, and you can avoid casts. Very strong racial. Yeah, like I said, some hipster picks, you could play Tauren for the little micro stun, or you could play Void Elf, and then or you could play Orc and Human. So Orc is kind of strong because it gives you 10% stun reduction, and this is it sounds like a very small amount, but the classes that it's good into, like Feral and any type of rogue, is because whenever a rogue is stunning you a bunch of times, right? They're doing their little stutter step thing they love doing, triple stunning you over and over. The globals on their end are very clean, you know? If you're not playing normal blink and you're playing shimmer, they can like stun you, shadow strike you, secret tech you, eviscerate you, cheap shot, and it's all in this clean window of globals, and there's no gaps in between the stuns, so you have no counterplay. When you play Orc, you actually make the globals really messy. So they'll cheap shot you, they'll secret tech you, shadow strike you, and then they can't really fit that eviscerate global in there because the stuns are 10% shorter. So there'll be a small gap if they want to go for that damage global. So Orc kind of makes it to where playing Shimmer is less punishable because they can't just do their full Mythic Plus rotation in it while also stunning you with no gaps. If you guys don't know the difference between Shimmer and Blink, we'll go over that shortly, but basically you have the option to play Shimmer or normal Blink. Normal Blink is going to allow you to blink out of stuns in bonds. Shimmer will allow you to cast Blink while moving, but you cannot blink out of stuns. So kind of lets you play the more aggressive pick and not be punished for it as much. But yeah, that's kind of enough of the races right now. Let's get into the stat priority and gearing in a second. So stat priority and gearing, it's pretty simple. You want as much haste as possible. In PvP, I don't actually have a PvP dummy here, I don't think. But yeah, a good way to check your stats is to go to the PvP dummy in Dorn, and you can see what your stats are going to be enabled in PvP. This actually looks pretty right. So right now I'm rocking 36% baseline, and keep in mind this is 1 week into the season. 2 weeks, I think, at this point, but I haven't bought my next set of gear yet. And yeah, you want to get as much of this as possible. So I have an add-on called True Stat Value, so lets me see whenever I go over the penalty point of having a certain amount of haste. You don't care about this penalty anymore. You just want to stack as much haste as humanly possible. You're a spec that's casting a lot, so there is that benefit of your cast being quicker. But another benefit of haste is it lowers your global cooldown. So you can see every time I press barrage, all my abilities go on cooldown for a second, right? That global cooldown gets decreased the more haste you have. And remember what we said at the beginning of this video, Arcane is a very spammy spec. You are always spamming some sort of button. You know, your globals are always going to be back to back to back to back as soon as you can, as quick as you can. You want to get your 5 barrages, you want to spam spells to your target. If you're like anything but haste, doing all this stuff is just going to take so much longer, and it's going to put you far behind because you have so much stuff that you have to do that if it's even just a little bit slower, it's going to really mess up how quick you're able to get your damage out in that small window that you need to. And that's why going all haste is really good, because like I said, Arcane is very spammy spec, and you need to be doing a bunch of different things all at the same time, and you need to be trying to get all these different things done within a certain time frame as well. So haste is just going to allow you to do that the most. That being said, mastery doesn't really scale well on Arcane. It never has. You need a lot of mastery to make it good, and then even then, playing the talent that like kind of enables you to play mastery is pretty hard to get to right now, because you have to give up so much. So not only are you making your globals feel a lot worse by playing mastery, you also have to give up like really overpowered talents to play like kind of a mastery build. So it's not going to be very good. Crit nerfed in PvP. Don't ever look at crit as a stat unless it's like, I don't know, maybe there's some specs out there that play crit, but and then yeah, versatility as well. Versatility is really good because that's just going to make you tankier, going to make you do more damage. So every single piece of gear you can see has haste verse on it if it's possible. The 2 set, you're going to have to rock no haste on the shoulders because you need the 2 set, and then you're going to need the tier chest as well, and you're going to eventually run the 4 set once you get enough. So for your tier set, I think you want to run not the hands, so you'll run the legs because it has haste heavy. It's weighted with 1200 haste. It does suck that it has 600 crit on it versus, you know, a different stat, but that's just a sacrifice that you have to make. This one is like mastery and crit heavy, so we don't want the hands, and then the rest are honestly not bad. I mean, haste mastery, verse mastery. This one, you know, at least has some haste on it, even though it is mastery heavy. This one at least has some verse on it, even though it's mastery heavy. This one's really good because it's, you know, 1270 haste. Same with this one, 1227 haste. And yeah, you're gonna want your 4 set. The 4 set is really, really good on Arcane. We'll kind of cover it a little bit later once we go into like the talents and stuff. But yeah, you want to get your jewelry crafted with the embellishment. What is this embellishment called? The one that does damage based off of your gems. Elemental focusing lens, I believe it's called. It does pretty good damn. It's never really gonna be like too high. It's just an extra added amount of damage with you know, it's gonna take the spell school based off of your gems. You don't really care about that because it's not gonna get an increase to like arcane damage if it's an arcane school or something. It doesn't really work like that. But yeah, you basically just take this as a way to just do a little bit extra damage, and you know, in the long run it might add up to about 5% of your damage per game. It's definitely just worth to have on for now. In the future we might switch that to Ascendance, which is one that goes in your weapon, but early season you don't really want to do that because you get the free weapon at 2500 conquest. Again, this might change. We'll have to see where that goes. And then you can see we got all the haste verse missives on these, so every single piece is haste verse. We got a haste enchants on these. There's like boot speed enchant you want to pick up. There's a 930 int what is it called, 930 int leg enchant you're going to want to pick up. The authority of radiant power, you want that on your weapon. That's going to be a nice intellect increase proc. There is 1000 speed enchant on your bracers you want to pick up. Crystalline Radiance, rank 3. You want to get that on your chest. Chant of Burrowing Rapidity. That's just going to be another speed enchant. And then last but not least, you want to make sure you're getting a gem slot. And this gem slot is going to give you Cognitive Bloodstone. You can just get that off of the auction house. You can get all these things off the auction house. But yeah, if you just go Cognitive Bloodstone, you buy this, you put it in your gem slot, and you get precognition. And that's that thing that when someone misses a kick on you, you get 4 seconds of crowd control and kick immunity, which is very, very good in PvP. Like, playing without precog as a caster is definitely not a good idea. When you are gearing, if you're gearing from scratch, you want to make sure you would also have at least one normal gem in any slot, because that's what's going to enable your embellishment. You see the equip bonus. The magic school chosen is based upon your selection of Kaz Algar gems. What that basically means is you just need some gem here. The Cognitive Bloodstone one won't work. You need to get this one. So, yeah, I'm doing the haste heavy verse one, which is probably pretty good. And I think that's all for the boring stuff, the stat, prio, gearing, and enchants. So we can start to get into the juicy stuff, like the talents and stuff. So we'll get into that now. All right, so now let's start to go over the talents. As you guys can see the tree here, these are the talents that I've had the most success with. I think these are, you know, arguably not really changeable too much. There's like 1 or 2 points you could maybe, you know, put somewhere else. But as you can see, the middle for our hero talents, we're rocking Spellslinger. Sun Fury, I have tried it. It's not very good. I think it was really good, like early in expansion or something, and then it's received multiple nerfs, while Spellslinger has received nothing but buffs. So Spellslinger is just going to be the best tree for Arcane Mage. I'm not going to go over every individual talent, but I'm going to go over a couple that are pretty crucial, and not just in terms of like abilities, like, oh, you know, Ice Block, that's a crucial ability, but like crucial to less mage related things and more arcane related things. So this one, greater invisibility, increases your movement speed by 80%. So you get a lot of movement speed when you use your wall ability. So the reason why I believe this talent is really good right now is, one, because of this new PvP talent we have called OP Barrier. So OP Barrier, if the next barrier is fully absorbed, your next blink or shimmer within 15 seconds grants invisibility and immunity to damage for 3 seconds. So whenever someone absorbs your barrier, breaks it completely, your next blink will give you invis and immunity to damage. So that's going to make it to where every time you use that, every time you get that proc, your movement speed is going to be greatly increased, which is going to be extremely nice for kiting melees, repositioning. It's just, it's very strong, very, very strong with Arcane and the way OP Barrier works. The next one is going to be Reduplication. Mirror image cooldown reduced by 10 seconds when a mirror dissipates due to direct damage. So the reason this one's good is because we run Phantasmal Image over Reactive Barrier. Reactive Barrier does sound good, but it's like nerfed pretty heavily in PvP, so it doesn't actually end up being too much of a benefit there. Also, you kind of don't want your barrier to absorb more, because you want it to break most of the time with OP Barrier. So Phantasmal Image, what it does is it summons 1 extra clone. Mirror Image now reduces all damage taken by an additional 5%. So Mirror Images, you have them out. It's going to summon 5 of them at this point. I think it might actually be bugged, because it's normally summons 3, but it summons 5, which is a big reason why it's strong. And now your mirror image, images reduce damage by a lot more. So you can see every time I attack, do a direct spell, it gets rid of 1 mirror image. So you basically have 25% damage reduction for the next 5 spells that are casted on you, which is pretty strong. And it gets reduced. You can see my mirror images just ended, and it's already on a 30-second cooldown again. So you have mirror images quite often. It's very good source of tankiness when you play Arcane. Mirror images actually feels like a real defensive cooldown, which is kind of cool. And yeah, okay, so that's about it for that. And then we have, this is kind of like a big one, Shimmer versus Ice Flows. I think Ice Flows feels really good on Arcane because for one, you can cast while moving, right? So you can really, you have like some big spells like Arcane Surge that you need a lot of help getting off most of the time. And Ice Flows is going to help you a lot with that. But the bigger thing about it is, remember what we said at the beginning as well, unless you guys skipped to this point in the video, which shame on you. You know, you gotta watch the whole thing. Come on, guys, what are we doing? But, yeah, Arcane Mage is a really kind of a mortal spec if you want to be. And that kind of plays into like, if you want to be immortal, you have the option to by playing normal Blink and having these mirror images on such a short cooldown, having movement speed with your wall, having a really good barrier, having a really good OP barrier so that you can get that immunity and movement speed. And you also just have like slows with your barrages. So like whenever you barrage, it's gonna slow and give you movement speed as well. So Arcane Mage has like the most mobility, the most annoying mage spec out of all to train. It has a lot of magic damage reduction. It has a lot of ways to avoid damage. So normal Blink kind of plays into that a little bit because now not only are you super slippery and very hard to attack and have a lot of damage reduction, blah, 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 it's also like you can't even lock down the mage in a stun now. And on top of that, it's like not even that bad to play normal Blink because you just get Ice Flows. So like you still have a way to cast while moving. And I think that feels really, really good on Arcane. Now, is there situations where you should play Shimmer? Yes, there are games that you should play Shimmer. We're not going to go into that right now. But Ice Flows, if you had to pick one or the other to lock on Arcane, Ice Flows is definitely going to be the one to just kind of lock it in. And then Shimmer kind of be like the tech pick, you know, you play tech, or you kind of switch it up into different matchups and when you're playing different comps and stuff. But 80-90% of the time, you cannot go wrong playing Ice Flows. There are even a couple of mages who just live by the word of Ice Flows. You know, they preach the gospel of Ice Flows just being good all the time. And if you do play it like that, you know, you can always make it work too. If you play Ice Flows and you never play to, and you kind of sit back and, you know, just basically never die and do as much damage as possible, that's a really good place out on Arcane that a lot of people tend to abuse. So Ice Flows, very, really good talent. For the left side of the tree, I don't think there's too much more that we got to talk about, but we can talk a little bit about the stuff on the right now. And there's just a couple key things that you guys should be aware of. Arcane side of the tree, we might want to break down talent for talent because this is, you know, the left side of the tree was more mage related stuff, kind of big picture. A lot of this stuff on the right is going to be how you play the spec, and it's probably worth to go over each of these talents individually. So missiles is going to be one of your main sources of damage. It arguably is like your biggest source of damage alongside barrage. So it's only castable when you have clear casting. So right now you can see missiles not lit up, cannot cast it. It launches 5 waves of arcane missiles at the enemy over 1.8 seconds, causing a total of 700,000 arcane damage. Obviously that number is going to change based off modifiers. So now what's a clear casting? Clear casting is in here somewhere. I swear okay, there we go. Yeah, here we go. Casting arcane spells has an 8% chance. I swear that should be an 8% instead of a. Casting arcane spells has a 8%. That doesn't sound right. It has an 8% chance. Wait, now I'm second guessing myself. Has an 8%. No, it's an 8% chance to grant access to missiles or make your next arcane explosion free. You don't care about that second part about the arcane explosion, but basically casting arcane spells, it gives you a chance to generate a clear casting proc. And that clear casting proc is going to be this thing on my screen that you see. It's going to now allow you to cast arcane missiles. So that's what we know about that. So now clear casting can stack an additional 2 times, meaning that you can actually have 3 clear castings at any given point in time. These damage numbers are crazy. Sometimes you can get a little unlucky, but here's one. you can see now there's 2. And yeah, you can stack a 3rd one up there as well. If you ever get one, yeah, you can just use that. So yeah, you have 3 clear castings, which basically just allows you to send missiles 3 times in a row now. And then you might proc one while you're channeling it too. Nether Precision is going to be a buff after you consume clear casting, and that's going to increase the damage of your next 2 blaster barrages. So yeah, after you consume a clear casting, here, let's get another one. Come on, bruh. Yeah, so you get one, you send it in, right? You cast your missiles, then you get this buff. And that's going to increase the damage. I think this tooltip's wrong. It says only blast. But yeah, basically, your next 2 barrages or your next 2 blasts will do increased damage. And that's going to be very good. We'll take advantage of that later. I'll show you guys the best way to use this later. Arcane Cleave for each arcane charge. Arcane barrage hits an additional enemy. So now we can kind of, you know, segue into what even are arcane charges. So you can see here you have 4 arcane charges. I think they're default up here. If you guys want my UI, hit me up. So you can see that when I'm casting Arcane Blast, right? Arcane Blast is this spell here. Blast the target with energy, dealing 145,000 arcane damage. For each charge, each arcane charge increases the damage by 69%, lol, and mana cost by 100%, and it reduces the cast time by 8%. So 0 charge Arcane Blast is something you never want to do. Only reason I'm doing it here is because I want to show you the difference. So you can see the blast gets faster and does more damage the more you have. So now that I'm at 4, I'm at my peak cast time and damage for Arcane Blast. The only other spell that these arcane charges affect is your barrage. So if you read that bottom portion, for each arcane charge deals 96% additional damage and hits 1 additional nearby enemy. So when I send that in, it'll cleave to all the different targets from this one. So it only affects your blast and your barrage. Your arcane charges literally only matter for your barrage and your arcane blast. If you have 0 arcane charges and you spam a missiles, and you click a missiles, it won't increase the damage based off of how many you have. It won't decrease the damage based off how many charges you have. It's just a way of getting big barrages or big arcane blasts. It's not a simple combo point system where it's like you want to get to 4 and then spend them. So like, for example, on a rogue, when you're at full combo points, you might think like, oh, I don't want to use any more generators on those because I'm at full combo points. I need to spend them. That's also not as simple as it is. The combo points being at 4 just allows you to do damage in different ways. So when you're at 4 combo points, this means that your Arcane Blast is a really good spell. But we'll kind of spoil something down here. But every time you missiles, the next damage of your barrage is increased by 5%. It stacks up to 10 times. So when you when you missiles, you'll get this stacking buff, which increases the damage of your next barrage. So that is when you want to send in this, right? That's going to be a huge amount of damage alongside of this one, which increases the damage by 100% against targets below 35% HP. So that's kind of all there is to know about the charges. You know, when you have 4, you can sit here, and if you don't have a clear casting, for example, you can sit here and spam blast. That's a really great source of damage. And then when you get a missiles, you can send that in. And then now that you have 4 charges with your 8-stack Arcane Harmony, then that's a really good option to send that in. And you have a bunch of different ways to generate these. We'll talk about these as we go down the tree. So Amplification just makes your missiles fire 3 additional missiles. Concentrated Power just makes your missiles channels faster. Arcane Familiar is sort of a kind of a non-talent that we don't really care about it. We just click it so that we can go down. Arcane Surge, this one's huge. This is your biggest possible cooldown. You know, this is your Combustion, your Icy Veins, whatever, right? So that's going to increase your spell damage by 20% whenever you cast this. So the really cool part about Arcane is that your rotation doesn't really change too much. It's a large part of it is you're weaving blasts, clear castings, and barrages. So when you have this surge up, those, you know, that basic rotation is basically just going to be empowered. So it's a very long cast. We'll talk about the rotation soon, but yeah, essentially what you need to know is once you get this cast off, then when you go into your rotation, you're just going to have that spell damage increase, which is going to make your spells hit just that much harder. And, you know, you can see it's still like the same rotation. Nothing's like, it's still just weaving Arcane Blast, Barrage, and Missiles. That's about it. So yeah, that's a really, really good spell. We'll hold off on talking about that a little bit till our rotation. Intuition was actually our 2 set in Dragonflight, I believe. Or no, it was a 2 set in The War Within Season 1, which got added into our baseline kit. Casting a damaging spell has a 5% chance to make your next barrage, deal 50% increased damage, and generate 4 charges. So this is going to be our first way of generating arcane charges without having to cast Arcane Blast. So whenever you are using a spell, you can say it's casting a damaging spell has a 5% chance. You'll see I made a little proc down here. It pops up right here. This is whenever you barrage, it'll instantly refill them. So you press it, it does a little bit more damage, 50% more, and it instantly fills your charges again, which is quite nice. Arcane Tempo, this is a really huge talent. Consuming arcane charges increases your haste by 2%, stacks up to 5 times. So this honestly should be reworded to whenever you cast barrage, because you can cast 0 charge arcane barrages and generate these. See, I'm at 0 and I press barrage and it increases my stack. So this is a really, really important buff to keep up the whole game. You can see on my little add-on, once it starts to get to a point where it's about to run out, it glows and lets me know I need to refresh it. So I need to press barrage at some point whenever that thing, you know, starts getting really low, because you can maintain 10% higher haste the whole game. And if you can maintain that the whole game, it's really, really good. Sometimes, you know, if it's about to fall and then you get like CC'd or have to block, it might fall. Those are the times where it's like, well, you know, it happens. It like that kind of thing happens. You just want to try at some point to like get them back up a little bit. So very good there. Presence of Mind makes your next 2 Arcane Blast instant. That's huge because, you know, sometimes you need to be able to cast Arcane Blast when you have 4 charges and there's like a bunch of interrupts and stuff present. So that's going to be really, really, really good for you to just be able to cast those instant casts, 45-second cooldown. Slipstream allows you to cast your missiles while moving. That is really, really nice because that's what makes the spec feel so good, is that whenever you have these missiles procs, if there's like an interrupt available, you can start the cast and move around the wall to avoid the interrupt, right? And you can kind of sit here and just play this little poke game of missiles, go around the wall, missiles. Or if someone's running around the pillar, you know, and you're chasing them, you can get the missiles on them while they're running. It's just very quality of life. Same thing with Evocate. So Evocate you can cast while moving as well. Very nice. Another thing here, let's keep going. Charged Orb. Arcane Orb just gives an additional charge. That's just nice to have 2 of these now. Orb is an ability that is going to be one of your main sources of generating charges. So when you have no charges at all, this ability acts like a bowling ball, essentially. So you'll cast it, it'll send what I like to call a bowling ball down, you know, whatever direction you're facing, and it'll grant an arcane charge every time it deals damage. So ideally you want to get this on like 3 targets. So it gives 1 just when you cast it, grants 1 arcane charge when cast, and then every time it deals damage. So if I do it over here, right, it gives me 1. And then if I get rid of those, oh, procced 1. And then if I get rid of those and I do it here, you'll see it gives me 4. So to be very efficient with this spell, you want to make sure you're hitting multiple targets with it. Sometimes you're going to fight comps like melee caster healer, where it's, let's just say, for example, Disc Priest, Affliction Warlock, Outlaw Rogue, where they're not going to be like stacking the whole game. You know, maybe one person's over here, that's the healer, maybe the warlock's over here, and then the feral's training you, or the outlaw rogue's training you. At those times, you know, you have to just take what you can get. Sometimes you might not be able to generate all 4 with one. Maybe you can only get like 1 here. Like maybe you can just get to like 3. And then, you know, for that 4th charge, you can either just missiles to generate it from voltage, which we'll talk about later. But there are ways like to generate more. Orb is just one of them. And that's just the best way to be efficient with generating them. Resonance, Arcane Barrage deals 15% increased damage per target it hits beyond the first. So Arcane Barrage just simply does more when it cleaves. So if there's a lot of targets and it's cleaving, it's going to just do more damage. Very nice. Impetus is kind of a passive that you don't have to think about. Whenever you blast, there's a chance that you just get this random proc that basically just increases your damage whenever you get it. It's like pretty rare, I think, but yeah, you get it sometimes. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna sit here and fish for one, but basically Arcane Blast, 10% chance. It's just gonna, you know, if you were to gain an arcane charge while at maximum charges, instead you would gain 10% arcane damage. So when you're sitting there and casting blast at full charges, it's nice to do that sometimes to fish for this impetus proc, but again, it's pretty low like chance, so it's not something that you're really like intentionally doing too often. But maybe when you're behind the pillar and there's some pets, you can maybe fish for this before you go for your big kill. It's just I largely play with this thing as like a passive, as if it never doesn't exist basically. But Magi is definitely a really important button. So I think we might save Magi. We might talk about Magi a little bit more with the rotation. I'm going to skip it for right now because it's a your whole spec revolves around this one spell. And if I talk about it right now, I'm going to go off on like some tangent that's going to take 30 minutes. Illuminated Thoughts, obviously just, you know, 5% more chance to cast, to get the clear casting. Pretty good. Evo is really nice because it generates you a clear casting on demand. So you have a way of generating these clear castings just on demand. And it's also, on top of that, going to give you an intellect increase. So it's really good to do this before your burst window. We'll go over that more in the rotation. But yeah, like Evo into Surge into Magi, so that you can have this intellect bonus while you're bursting with your Arcane Surge up is very good. You can cast it while moving, and you'll get increased movement speed during it due to Slippery Slinging. Your Touch of the Magi now accumulates 25% of the damage you deal. Again, we'll talk about this stuff later. When a spell consumes clear casting, its damage is increased by 10%. Basically, that just means whenever you missiles, it just does 10% more damage. Then we have Debilitation. So Debilitation is something worth talking about, I think. Damaging a target with arcane missiles increases the damage they take from missiles, barrage, and blast by 1%. Multiple instances may overlap. So let's go ahead and build up some clear castings right now to show you guys what I'm talking about with Debilitation. So right now we're at 2. Just try to get that 3rd. I'm just going for the 3rd here. All right, we got it. So whenever you missiles, you'll see this stacking buff. So the more times you missiles in a row, the higher this buff's going to stack. And now suddenly you're doing 36% more damage to the target. And then you can see it starts quickly going down if you're not constantly missiling. So that's a pretty good talent just for whenever you missiles, the target will take increased damage from the 3 rotational spells that you're already doing to them. So it's basically just free damage. Other attunement is every 3 times you consume a clear casting, your next arcane missiles deals 100% increased damage to the primary target, and it'll also fire up to 4 nearby enemies, dealing 50% increased damage. So I track this down here with this thing. That lets me know I've consumed 2. This one, on my 3rd one, it will pop up, and now I have an other attunement. Also, my clear castings are a different color when I have that. So if I can generate one here, you can see they're like dark purple. So these ones, it's very important you fully channel these, So it's very important that you can get this full missiles off now, because you can see it AoEs and does a lot more damage. So that is like your big burst. And you'll notice with the force out here, when you hit a jackpot, you also gain other attunement. So what that means, your 2-set, right? Your spells and abilities have a small chance to hit a jackpot, granting you clear casting and also increasing your spell damage. Casting Touch of the Magi always hits a jackpot. So when you Magi, you just get the other attunement, and that is going to be huge, because that means like you're going to apply your burst window to someone, and then you just already have your big one-shot ability. So this is very important talent to play around. Enlightened is sort of passive in my opinion. Damage dealt increased by your arcane damage dealt is increased based off your current mana up to 6% at full mana. So whenever you're full mana, you just do more damage. The more mana you spend, this goes down, but then increases your regen a little bit. Bombardment is essentially what makes your barrage and execute. So Arcane Barrage deals 100% damage against targets below 35%. I think this is like nerfed in PvP by a certain amount, but the point stands the same. When a target is below 35% health, Barrage is going to do a lot more damage. So Voltage is going to be another way that we're generating arcane charges. Damage from missiles has a 10% chance to grant you a charge. Chance is increased by 15% every time your missiles fails to grant you a charge. So if we get a couple charges here, you can see I'm at 0 combo points. When I missiles, it's going to just give you charges whenever you consume clear casting, which is very nice quality of life, right? You have a million different ways to generate these charges. You can see when I'm barraging, all I'm doing is barraging and I'm proccing orbs. That's another talent over here. Arcane Barrage has a 10% chance per arcane charge consumed to launch an arcane orb in front of you at 100% effectiveness. So when you're at 4 and you press Barrage, you have a 40% chance to generate one of these. Which is why it's important, actually, to make sure you're facing your character in the correct way whenever you Barrage. And then you can see the missiles. That Voltage only gave me 2, so I'd want to fill in the rest here with the second missiles. Then I Barrage. Do I get an Orb Barrage proc? No, so I'll use one of my own. Now I only have 4 charges, but no clear castings, so I'll cast a blast or 2 to get one. Okay, I have one. Now I will missiles here to get my, for 1 just to do damage, for 2 just to get the buff for Arcane Harmony, and then I'll send in my Barrage. Do I proc an Orb Barrage? I don't, so I use my own. Then again, we go into it. Fishing for clear castings, basically. You're not always going to be fishing for clear castings here. Maybe you'll be running and spell stealing and building up tempo. You can see my Barrage hit this because I wasn't facing my character correctly, so now I have to use my own. Now we're going to just do some blasts. Hey, we got one. We'll send those in. And I got another one. I might as well send that in. Barrage. Okay, nice, we procced. I had an intuition there. Now I'm back at these. So now I have another attunement. I'm looking for a clear casting again. Now, you're not always going to sit here and cast Arcane Blasts to fish for these clear castings, but it is, you know, if you can, that's obviously very nice, but it's very unrealistic in PvP to sit there and free cast a million Arcane Blasts. So fishing for clear castings is the name of the game. And whenever you get these clear castings, you want to be very aware of your next Magi window and your next Surge window, which is where we're going to start to talk about. It's going to segue us directly into our rotation now. So yeah, if you guys are just clicking on this part of the video because you just want to see the rotation, I highly recommend you go back and watch the talent section, because it's all kind of one giant discussion. You know, we just broke down every single talent and how they play a role into each other and how they synergize with each other. So again, if you guys just clicking on the timestamp that says, you know, how do I do my damage, do recommend going back and watching the talent section. So one thing I forgot to comment about with the talents, which we'll go over here before the rotation real quick, is Spellslinger. So we didn't really go over the talents on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and just simplify everything there is to simplify about Spellslinger for you guys. Whenever you consume a clear casting, right? Sorry, another precision. Whenever you consume another precision is that buff that whenever you consume a clear casting, your next 2 barrages or blasts consume or get increased damage. Whenever you consume this buff, which is to say whenever you blast or barrage after a clear casting, right? Clear casting proc there, boom, 2 barrages. What it's going to do is it's going to embed an arcane splinter into the target. As you can see that last line, arcane splinters embed themselves into their target, dealing 27 blah 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 amount of damage over 18 seconds, and it stacks. So you can just think of this as like extra passive damage on your spells. There are 2 rotations. There are 2 different rotations. One rotation for when you're playing Magi Spark with signature spell, and that rotation is going to be the second one I'll show you guys if you do want to play Magi Spark over high voltage. It's going to just be just basically a different rotation. This is the build I'm playing now because I don't like playing around splinters. This is how I prefer to play. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I copied this build from Cubsy, and I was a little bit hesitant at first. I'm like, wait a second, he's not playing Magi Spark, what? And then I tried it in a 3 session, and I realized that it's like a lot more fun for me because I don't have to think about the splinters as much. And it's like, to me, playing around embedded arcane splinters as being like a really big source of your damage is something that, like, you know, it changes the rotation a little bit. And that new rotation I was doing was not really one that I found super enjoyable. With this build in particular, without playing the Magi Spark, you aren't really thinking too much about the splinters at all. So, you know, it's basically just an extra added amount of damage on your already bursting abilities. So the splinter stuff, you play in this build, we don't have to think about it too much. You just know that whenever you conjure those precisions, or sorry, whenever you consume those precisions, it's going to just give you an increase in damage. And the rest of the stuff is really lackluster. I mean, casting Surge gives you 8 splinters, which is just, you know, more damage. Maybe incentivized to not want to just Surge whatever at all cost, because sometimes, you know, if you're behind this pillar and you are really struggling to get that Surge off, you might want to just cast it on like a pet or something, right? Because if you poke out and try to cast it on these guys, they're going to kick you. That's something I really try to avoid doing now, because it is kind of a lot of damage to lose those 8 splinters. Controlled instincts for 8 seconds after being struck by an arcane orb. 20% of the direct damage by a splinter is also dealt to nearby enemies. This doesn't really do too much damage, but something to think about. Enemies damaged by your orb conjure 2 splinters, up to 4. So this is just more splinter procs, more passive damage. Also a nice little increase to arcane orb damage right there. That's going to apply to, you know, your orb and your orb barrage and stuff like that. Whenever the embedded splinters are removed, blah, blah, blah. I'm just confusing you guys by reading all these, but really you don't have to know jack shit about them to play the spec. Direct damage from splinters has a 2% chance to launch an orb. That's why sometimes you'll just randomly get an orb proc. This is just nice. 5% increased crit damage, 2% increased crit chance. So the shifting shards is the one you want to play when you're not playing, you know, if you're playing signature spell, you need to have Magi Spark active. But since we're not playing that, we'll go there. And then Splinter Storm, whenever you have 8 or more splinters on the target, it'll automatically cast the Splinter Storm, which basically just consumes all of them and has a chance to give you a clear casting proc. So like a little example of that would be, if we can get a couple clear castings here. I don't want to use my spells because I'm about to do my rotation. I want to wait for the cooldowns, but yeah, see if we can farm a couple. But there we go. We got 2. This should be good enough. So yeah, you have 2 clear castings, and you can see these are the splinters. And then once you get to 8, it consumes it, and it does, you know, however much damage it does. But that's pretty much all you need to know about Spellslinger. Not too important. Again, if you are playing this tree, I'm not completely sold on the thing I'm doing yet with the no spark, but I do really like it for now. Again, if you are struggling to do damage and you want to just try something new, you could go for the Magi Spark. But I'm a fan of this, man. I'm telling you. I'll show you guys the Magi Spark rotation after we do the normal one. But yeah, so now let's kind of like tie everything together, and let's go over the rotation now. All right, I'm gonna just do my best to get my rotation going here. So you want to Evo right away, right? We got our checklist, right? We want to get the Evo up beforehand. We want to get the Surge off, and then from there, ideally, we want to have 4 Arcane charges before all that too. So we'll go ahead and get the Evo rolling. We'll get the Surge rolling. Then from here, I like to do a Barrage Magi while it's in the air. Missiles, missiles, missiles. Palm Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast. If you get a Missiles proc there, it's nice. And then double Barrage. And then from here, just consume your clear castings and go into more barrages if you can. So that is going to be a metric fuck ton of damage. The rotation is going to change based off of if you get an extra clear casting, because you got to think when you're starting your rotation, you're starting with 0 Ether Attunement procs, right? And then you're going in, you're spending 3 clear castings, right? Because whenever you Evo, you get 1. Whenever you Surge, you get 1. And whenever you Magi, you get 1. So you always are going to have 3 if you have all 3 of those cooldowns. But you need to at least proc 1 more during your burst so that you can get the 4th one, which is going to be the one that procs that other attunement. That will change when we get 4 set. Maybe it's a little silly to make a guide outside of 4 set. But with the 4 set, all that's going to change is whenever you do that Barrage Magi right here, this first missiles is just going to be an Ether, which is going to be amazing. So that's literally it. And then you'll get another one if you're at 2. So it's going to just increase your damage a lot. That's kind of covering my base for, you know, after 4 set when you guys get that. But I think it's probably a good idea to maybe do the rotation one more time and go for like a different set of circumstances, a little bit of different luck with the clear casting procs, and then also do a rotation that doesn't have Arcane Surge, so your downtime go. So let's get our Evo up, get the Surge rolling. Let's do Barrage Magi Missiles, palm up double Arcane Blast. I got an Intuition proc there, so I decided to include that, and then I just missile spam because I got my Ether, and then I'll finish off with 2 barrages. So that one was a little bit different. Again, we'll go over both of these in a sec, and yeah, I'll see you guys there. All right, so let's watch this rotation back now. So yeah, I get the Evo. Let's watch my globals down here, okay? So I first start with an orb, so I can start at full combo points. This is optional, very optional, very min-max. Don't have to do it. If the opportunity is there to get a couple combo points before the go, very nice. I get my Evo on for the increased intellect and the on-demand clear casting. I get my Surge up so I can get my additional clear casting along with my 20%, 25, whatever, spell damage modifier. Then I do a... Now after this, we're ready to go. These are the ramping globals. This is what gives us as much spell power, as much intellect, and as many clear castings as possible. Then we do a barrage. The barrage is in the air, and you press the Magi literally one, like, on the same press, because the Magi is not on global, right? So, like, watch the order. See how quick those are back to back? Then from here, I have 3 clear casting procs, right? So I use one, I use another one, and ideally during this time, you are doing your best to not get interrupted. So you are weaving in and out of pillars. Before this, you've, you know, maybe rung the Warlock pet and knocked the rogue off you. That part so much, I can only help you with that part so much. That's the part where the individual player skill comes in, and that skill is going to come through awareness of what can stop you during this go, because that's going to be the part that's not talked about. Basically, I'm showing you guys how to do the rotation very efficiently when you can, and like what's the best way to use these spells back to back to back to increase your damage the most. But when it comes to actually being in an arena match and getting all these spells off, that's where it's kind of like not as easy to cover in a guide. Basically impossible, actually. But yeah, just be aware of these interrupts. These missiles, you can maybe cancel them. It's very unideal if you have to do that. Sometimes you do have to use your stop casting macro or keybind. But basically, yeah, so barrage, magi, missiles again here. We're stacking up that debilitation. Missiles again here. We actually procced an orb during it. Then from here, I have clear castings, nether precisions. I consume both of those with blast. Luckily, on that blast, I got a clear casting. So with this clear casting, I now have an additional clear casting to use my Ether Attunement proc, which is the really, really, really big damage. So I send that in, and then you can see I get an intuition proc there, which is a lot of barrage damage right here. That's 50%. And we have an impetus, which is kind of the point of those two blasts, I guess, a little bit. And then once you send in that, that's going to be an actual crap ton of damage. And then from here, after those two barrages, you want to just kind of go off of like what's available. So right now I have another clear casting. That's the thing that's most readily available. High voltage gives us those 2 additional combo points. So then we send in 2 more barrages to consume these last precisions. And that's that. So that was that rotation. We're going to skip ahead to our next rotation because we did 2. And this one is going to be a different set of circumstances. So let's see what happens here. We get the Evo. We get our Surge. Barrage, Magi, Missiles. Now on this one, I opted to do, this was the Magi Spark rotation. So this is the one that whenever you're playing Magi Spark, 1 second, we'll tab over. You want to use these 3 spells back to back. Your Touch of the Magi now also conjures a spark, causing the damage of your next barrage, blast, and missiles to echo for 100% of their damage. Upon receiving damage from all 3, the spark explodes, dealing 300,000 arcane damage to all nearby enemies. So with this rotation, you don't want to just do all your missiles in a row. You want to do barrage, magi, missiles, palm, arcane blast, because now you're getting these 3. You're getting the barrage, the missiles, and the blast in one after another, which is proccing that spark, which is generating a lot of splinters and doing a lot of burst damage. Then from here, after these 2 blasts, I got an intuition proc, so I decided to include that, but that's maybe bad. Then you just do missiles, and then from here you have 2 options. You can spam, you can min-max going for each precision tick. So like you can barrage after these after you get these precisions, then go into another clear casting, into another barrage, into another clear casting, to another barrage. This rotation it maximizes the amount of splinters, which I think is the way you're supposed to play it when you run Magi Spark. But I like playing around the debilitation stacks personally, so I just go for a bunch of missiles in a row and get that number really, really high, and then send in like the 2 barrages, because at that point they might also be in execute range. So yeah, that's just one way to do it. I'm not claiming this is the best way. Guide is really just showing you guys how I do damage on Arcane Mage, and I feel like I do a lot of damage right now, so I'm just kind of sharing some of these secrets with you, I suppose. But yeah, that's just a different rotation for if you're running that different talent, and that's pretty much how you do damage on Arcane Mage. You can see it's really just a mix of missiles, barrage, and blast, and you're just really trying to combine all these different modifiers that you're getting from all these different spells. So it's like, you know, you're doing your rotation, and why are you missiling, right? Well, you're trying to build up this debilitation stack, and you want to get all your clear casting spent so that you can potentially get, like, see right here I have my Ether now, but now this is terrible RNG because I didn't get another one, so I couldn't consume it in time. So at the same time that you're bursting, you're always adjusting your rotation based off of like the amount of clear castings and modifiers that you are being given. So like if we looked back at that rotation, that was actually bad because I played for the other attunement proc, which I never got. So I would have done more damage there had I did a different rotation where I focused more on consuming each nether precision with my clear castings. Hopefully that is okay. Maybe Arcane is rocket science, but yeah, hopefully that wasn't too confusing for you guys. It's obviously here in video format. You can watch that back as many times as you need. If you guys are still a little bit confused on the rotation, if not, and you need some additional assistance, I offer coaching. If you guys head on over to my Discord channel, in the egg cord here, you can go to my egg coaching section here and check it out. My schedule's pretty open, so if you guys are interested in that, let me know if you guys need further help. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about the rotation, I believe. So let's get on to the next part, which is add-ons and stuff. So these are the Weakauras I use for Arcane in particular. So this one just makes it to where your clear casting tells you how many you have by these little orbs. So like 1 clear casting, 2, 3, and then whenever you have an other attunement proc, it makes it this like dark purple. One thing that you'll need alongside that is the spell alert opacity one, where you can turn off, like, I don't want the default spell alerts on Arcane. And then alongside that, I use an Arcane Charges Weakaura just so I can track it in the middle of my screen rather than up here. Arcane Tempo to the left of my charges, and an Intuition to the right. So all these will be available in my Discord channel. If you guys, again, join that, would be in the description below. Besides those, some of the more like mage specific ones you want are like the Alter Time Weakaura, which will tell you how much health you've altered at. So if you took some damage, this would say like, this would be red, telling you not to alter back, for example. The barrier amount Weakaura, which is pretty handy. Tells you how much your barrier has left. And that's about it. I mean, there's some other stuff like Amp Curse Alert. All these are available in my Discord channel, like Missing Arcane Intellect. If you guys are familiar, or sorry, are looking for any add-on help, I'm always available for the coaching side of things as well. But a lot of the stuff is in there for free in my Discord. All of it is available for free, actually. The only thing that the coaching does is I'll go on and install it on your computer in perfect format in like under 30 minutes. So if you just don't feel like dicking around with it, or you're not very tech savvy or whatever, then that's the option there. A lot of people think I make people pay for my add-ons, but that's not true. Everything is available for free in the Discord. It's just, if you don't want to go through the hassle of doing it yourself and you want, you know, to pay for the convenience factor of having someone else do it for you in under 30 minutes, then, you know, that option is also there. So yeah. Oh, one thing I forgot to touch up on, actually, PvP talents. I don't know how I didn't. Jesus. Anyways, we got Ice Wall. Ice Wall is like an insane talent, because let's say you're doing your burst rotation, right? You got someone at 1%. The guy to his left over here, this little guy here, that's like the healer. You get this guy super low. You make an Ice Wall between him and the healer. Boom, execute barrage. It's like, that's kind of how you're winning a lot of games right now, is through these through Ice Wall. Honestly, Ice Wall is a really good talent. I recommend picking it, learning how to use it. I have an @cursor macro, so the only macros I use on Arcane are like, these ones are kind of like not too important, but yeah, just the Ice Wall macro is really important. @cursor, so you know that the middle of your cursor, like wherever your mouse is, that's where the middle of the wall is going to be. So you kind of have to like get a feel for how long the wall is. Once you kind of get a feeling for that, then it becomes a pretty easy to use spell, in my opinion. Overpowered barrier is another one. So your barrier now only lasts 5 seconds, but it has an additional effect and it absorbs 100% more damage. So when the barrier is fully absorbed, your next blink or shimmer within 15 seconds grants you invisibility and immunity to damage. So this is really important because if you're now in the starting room, you don't want a barrier. You just want to barrier at high bursting moments. So if someone's popping every single cooldown on you, for example, really good time to barrier. Coming out of the starting room, not a good time to barrier. And then if someone breaks it, you get the blink or shimmer. Your blink or shimmer will actually light up, and then you will have immunity to damage for that period of time, which is super dope. Next one, Chrono Shift. Arcane Barrage also slows and increases your movement speed. So 50% slow, 25% movement speed. Very, very nice. I don't really switch too many times from these. Master of Escape is pretty good because you can get a shorter cooldown on your wall, which is really nice. So you can have actually a 1.3 minute cooldown on that if you're fighting stuff that's like really mage killer status. Ring of Fire, you don't really ever take. Sometimes you can drop like Ice Wall or a Chrono Shift for Master Shepherd if you are planning to go for a lot of polymorphs. Sometimes Kleptomania can be good into like Resto Druid teams to just clean targets every 20 seconds. This spell is actually really strong because you can like spell steal one target. Once his buffs are clean, you switch it to this guy and start stealing all his buffs. I don't know if they maybe fixed that. Didn't work right there, but you used to be able to do that. Arcanosphere you never really take. Mass Invis never really take. Ethereal Blink you never really take. Ring of Fire you never really take. So hello everybody. So this part of the guide will be the gameplay breakdown, which I like to include in my guides because I think there is a lot to learn from, let's just say, me sitting in the city and explaining talents, gear, add-ons, macros, stuff like that. That is really good for introducing someone brand new to the class. And this portion is really good for the people who have all of that stuff down already and are looking at the pure actual gameplay aspects of the class that they're trying to learn. So I think guides nowadays should always have both, some gameplay for the more advanced players and then some of the other stuff for the more beginner players. And I think that even if you're a beginner, watching the actual gameplay breakdown can be very beneficial to you as well, especially when broken down by someone who really knows what they're talking about, because we can point out all the very, very important aspects of the game. And you'll notice as we go through the game, there's going to be like reoccurring themes, and the goal with recognizing these reoccurring themes basically is it's going to allow you guys to understand the pacing of an arena match, basically. I always view arena matches, not to get like I don't know, I'll just continue, but like basically the way I view arena is like there's momentum swings that go back and forth, and you want to just ride the momentum the whole game. You never want to be like, the momentum's gonna happen regardless if you ride with it or not, but the thing is you always want to be moving your character, positioning, doing things that are gonna match the momentum of the game. So you want to try to stay matched. You want to try to align your actions with the momentum of the up and down momentum shifts. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. And the idea behind it is not only to just watch these games and figure out, what's all these like little mechanical tricks you can do. Those will peak out as well, but also the pacing aspect I think is the more important aspect. So here's the talents we have going in. It's pretty standard. So what do we do when we first walk in? Well, I guess first thing we can do in the starting room is we can look at the lobby. So the lobby that we're in is, first of all, to preface, I picked games that did not go perfectly for this VOD review. So these games are not perfect games. These are not games to be looked at as like the, you know, the gospel of Arcane Mage games, and like this is textbook gameplay. Some rounds are good, some rounds are bad. That's why I included it. Some rounds include me not being trained, some rounds do include me being trained. So it has a wide variety of different scenarios. That's basically why I selected these games. So you don't really have to think about your lobbies too much. Like it is nice to know, like, oh, okay, I'm playing DK Mage. That's typically not a great comp. Okay, well, I'll play with that in mind. Like things like that I almost don't really think about too much. I just always go into every game as if it's equally winnable, and obviously knowing that kind of stuff can help with like talents, like changing your talents occasionally, but you should always go into each game, you know, assuming that you can win and that you have a good chance of winning, and all you need to do is just execute the gameplay parts correctly. So I start with an evocate to start off most games. No one is really able to interrupt me. If this was like a different class where it was like a hunter or something, you would want to do this in a position where you couldn't get kicked. And then the priest uses Shadow Crash on me, which is his way of getting instant dots out. So I meld it as it's about to hit me. It actually would have gotten my druid out of stealth too, so it was good I did that. And then the DK kicks him on VT here, so you can already see a momentum, a wave of momentum starting, right? He got melded on his Shadow Crash, and he got kicked on his first VT. So we already have pressure because we've now just shut down 2 interactions that this priest has tried to do. He's tried to dot 2 times so far. One with Shadow Crash, which received meld, and then one with VT, and my DK kicks him. So we want to try to ride this momentum off. So the first thing I'm going to do is notice that, and now I'm going to start ramping my damage. So I'm going to start barraging a little bit. Barraging. And I'm just going to try to get as many stacks of my tempo as I can get, but I don't want to be too greedy. I don't want to go all the way to 5 here because we already have kind of a go here. Keep in mind we have, like, you know, that momentum I was talking about earlier. So now I want to look at getting my Arcane Surge off. I'm trying to steal the PI because I know that's going to increase my damage tenfold if I am able to get it. So I position right next to a pillar so that if I ever get, so that I can basically just like missiles and then walk around the corner here whenever I do get my Surge off, so that I can't be silenced on it or anything like that. So after I get the PI, I cast my Arcane Surge, and then I barrage into Magi, into missiles. So this is like the rotation part that we talked about in the damage bursting guide. So I get silenced here because I didn't walk around the corner like I said I was going to. I trinket out of it because I'm doing a lot of damage here. And I'm holding my kick because right now you can see this priest is trying to, remember, we already stopped 2 of his VTs in the opener. Then we had a go. So far, you know, he hasn't really been able to play the game. We want to keep it that way. So he's trying to fake cast right now, right? He's casting VTs and he's canceling them about 50% of the way in. I was able to line that one because you can see here. So look at who the priest is targeting. It's me, right? So I'm actually able to hold my kick. I don't have to use kick here. This is very advanced. But I don't have to press kick here because I'm able to get behind the pillar as the cast was finishing. So now that continues the momentum. That acts as a way of pressure because I'm shutting down his play. You can see it didn't go off. Now he has to cast another one. I actually failed to realize it was on my DK, so that one should have been counterspell. But it's okay because I'm able to use kick on healer at this point, and you can see that once I do that, the healer is locked on shadow, and I'm able to get a full sheep. Now let's pause it right here because this is a very good example of how you guys should be balancing damage and CC. So if we go back to the start a little bit, you'll see what happens. We get the PI, right? We're doing damage. Now, I'm not going for CC right here. Everyone is still full HP. What you want to do as a mage, this is your natural kind of CC damage pattern, is that you want to do the damage first. You want to get the target low. Like, you want to do the brunt of the damage first. Then, with the momentum of the damage, then you try to get CC. Right? So in this exact case, it comes in the form of a counterspell. That's not always going to be how it happens. A lot of the times it's going to be a sheep, or a blink DB sheep, or something, or an ice wall. So then you can see we get the sheep with the damage. Now this is a lot more lethal than just casting a sheep at the start and then trying to do damage and having the CC end as soon as the damage pops. It's a lot more lethal to do the damage first so that the healer is under pressure, and then you try to mess with him while the damage is rolling. And he actually just dies in the opener through everything. So, now for the damage portion of the breakdown, we missiles. So we're basically on our surge. Missiles is our most OP ability right now. So we cast the surge. We do barrage magi missiles. Silence trinket. We missiles. And this one is an other attunement. So this one's going to AoE. Hence the big damage. Now we have 2 nether precisions and a 10 stack harmony. So we're going to actually opt to hard cast Arcane Blast. This is a very small min-max that you can do. So normally at this point you would want to use Presence of Mind because it would make these instant. But Presence of Mind actually decreases the damage of your Arcane Blast by a little small amount. So if you can, on your burst, and you don't need to use Palm Arcane Blast, you can just opt to cast it for a tiny damage increase. So that's what I do here. I just cast them into a barrage. Then I do more missiles here because I got another clear casting proc and I still have 6 seconds of Arcane Surge left, so I'm looking to pump as hard as I can. So another missiles. Then I do Palm Blast because it's going to create a big chunk of damage, and I'm trying to fit as much damage in this Magi as I can. That's when I land my kick on healer. The Magi pops there, and that's when I cast the sheep. So you can see the brunt of the damage is done, and then I CC with the momentum of my damage. And then I do another missiles into barrage here, and he goes down. And yeah. So this game is going to be a little bit harder, I think. So you can already see this game starts drastically different. In fact, it kind of starts what looks to be with us in the backseat. Because you can see the priest uses Shadow Crash again, and I didn't meld it. So I have dots on me. I'm trying to just get my arcane tempo stacks up. In fact, I'm kind of tunnel visioning it. One thing DKs are going to try to do a lot is grip in your teammates and then try to put you into a blinding sleet. So my healer did a good job of fading it. I have an intuition proc here, so that means my next barrage will give me full combo points. So I send that in to get my 5th arcane tempo and complete my combo points. There is a PI on the target, which I think I'm going to try to go for. Yeah, so I put a couple spell steals in. As arcane, you can spell steal pretty much infinitely. So I got the PI. However, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I have full dots on me. And the DK has popped all of his damaging cooldowns through A-Bomb Limb and Pillar of Frost, and he's used AMS offensively so that I cannot really peel him in any way. So one thing to note, you can actually blast wave through AMS. So if you're ever in a situation where you can blast wave and they have AMS up, you can look for that play. But be careful of Rider, because when they're on their horse, they're immune to knockbacks. So I pop Alter Time at 100% HP. And keep in mind right here, I'm not trying to go for damage. I'm just running. I'm just playing defensive first because they have the momentum right now. They're popping all their cooldowns. How would it be possible for me to swing that momentum right now when they have so much damage coming out? I would have to I still have to cast my Evo. I still have to get an Arcane Surge off, and then I have to actually be able to cast the missiles too. So that's just like way too hard to try to force right now. So you want to align your actions with the momentum of what's happening in the game, right? So right now I need to play very defensive. So I had my altar up, he gripped me over here. I'm just spamming barrage on things right now to keep everything slow. So I was spell stealing to get the PI, I alter, and I blink away from the priest because I don't want to get purged on it. Once I get gripped back, my priest grips me, and you can see my arcane tempo was about to fall. That would be really bad if that fell, because the whole, like, this opener was very greedy. I opted to go for 5 tempo stacks as my first play, so I could get all the haste. Now, if I let that fall, it's basically like I did nothing in the opener. So I keep those up, and I cancel that altar time. Because remember where that altar was. It was right here on this pillar. So when I get gripped back, my Addons Weakauras says, okay, that's a 94% altar. So that's technically you're losing health. But also, I have a far away position from the DK, and he's waiting for me on my altar. I don't want to alter back over there to the DK, so I use my cancel aura altar time macro. Right there at the very last second. Then I cast Arcane Surge. I'm opting to play Ice Flows, so I'll use Ice Flows while I'm surging in case I get gripped on it. Because if you get gripped on it with Ice Flows up, it'll count as like you still moving, so you can still get the cast off. So I got the surge off. I channel my evocation here. Then I do Barrage, Magi, Missiles. Actually, yeah, Missiles. And then you can see I have an intuition proc, so I'll probably opt to use that. I'll do that a lot if I have an intuition. Then I go into more missiles. You just want to spam missiles on your burst. Then, since the DK is starting to look at me now, if I did another missiles, you can tell he's targeting me and running at me. If I did another missiles here, there's a very high chance he would interrupt me. So that's a situation that you're going to be in on Mage a lot. Like, you guys have to get used to this scenario where, okay, this guy is right directly on me with an interrupt, and I have all my damaging cooldowns up. How can I do damage? So let's see what happens. I go into my palm Arcane Blasts. I would have liked to have done this other missiles, but if I were to have done that, I would have to cancel the missiles early with my cancel or my stop casting macro, because I can't afford to get kicked on Arcane right now. So I have to play it safe, and I just cut my damage a little short by not consuming this last missiles, and I just go right into the 2 palm double Arcane Blast. And then I tried to Ice Wall here because this puts the DK in a dilemma now, where it's like, okay, I remember what we talked about on the first go, right? Where you want to do the damage. So I've done the brunt of my damage. There's 3 seconds left on Magi. I've channeled many missiles and blasted into it. Now that the Magi is about to pop, this is kind of like the moment in the burst rotation where you want to go for the CC. So I go for an Ice Wall. Now this puts the DK in a dilemma, because if he doesn't kick the Ice Wall, then I've successfully like executed a good damage sequence into a good CC sequence. But if he does kick it, I'm not completely bothered by it, because now he's interrupting me on Frost, which allows me to complete my arcane casts. So I got kicked on the wall. And now I go back into missiles and I do more damage. So I almost one-shot him basically right there. My warrior also did a good amount of damage too. And that was an ample amount of pressure, and even though we didn't land the CC, we still got ample cooldowns. We got Iron Bark, we got NS, we got, you know, the DK pretty low, and the Druid had to expend a lot of mana and use Agent of Lore and stuff, right? And we now just get IBF for free too. So I tried to cast a late Ice Wall. It was kind of a fail because the Druid was able to leap over. Let me back it up a sec. So yeah, again, we cast the wall, which is one way to work around the interrupt, right? So that was very good by us. And then we spam 2 more barrages, and then we orb here because we have no combo points, and we can't just sit here and cast a 0 charge blast. So we orb, which is gonna hit like pets and stuff and put us at 3. So now we're at 4 combo points. And then now that I'm at 4 combo points and no one's really near me, I'm gonna blast to try to generate more clear castings right now. Didn't get one, so I go right into my missiles, and then I get an intuition proc here, which I will spend. Nope. Also to note, right now you can see that was our go, right? That was our wave of momentum. And now you can assume that because we just used all of our damage and because we had a really good offensive push, that means it's kind of their turn. They have an offensive push coming our way. So what I try to do here is prevent it. Like, so he fears, right? This is their go now. Here we go. We're watching a change in momentum live right here. So now they're landing their CC and trying to do their damage. So what do? I kick the priest on his damage school on their go. So now I'm successfully changing my pacing to interrupting their, like, yeah, their go basically. And on the meantime, since I landed this kick on their go and successfully shut it down, I'm now trying to ramp up my next go. So I don't have a lot of damage right now. I'm just waiting on Magi. I don't have any clear casting procs. But since I have 4 arcane charges, I'm just going to sit here and cast some blasts to try to generate more. And then I have to barrage there because my tempo stacks were falling. One thing I notice here, since we successfully shut down their go now and have generated pressure by shutting them down, my warrior lands this fear on the healer. So I push up to try to sheep off. I know I can just commit to the cast because the priest can't really stop it and the DK is too far to stop it. So I land the full sheep here. And it actually doesn't break because of that change they made where sheep doesn't break to 1 damage anymore. So we successfully shut down their go and now have a go of our own. And this one just kind of fell into our lap a little bit too. We didn't have to do a crazy amount of damage first. So that, like, each go is going to look a little different, right? But the thing is when you understand the pacing of the game and you understand the timings and the DRs, it's like, yes, every go is going to look different, but you're going to be ready for it because you understand, okay, it's our turn. Okay, it's their turn. Okay, it's our turn. Okay, it's their turn. And that really helps you with adapting your strategy to each and every go because you're ready for it because you're following the pacing of the game. So one thing to note here. So yeah, we refresh the tempo. I see the fear. I sheep, right? I have my other attunement here with a clear casting, so I consume it to do damage on our go. And then I need to cast a repoly here because we don't have enough damage to kill without it. So I'm trying to cast, but you can see the DK is on me, looking at me, targeting me. So I can't just commit to a resheep cast. There's 2 plays you could make here, in my opinion. You could cast Ring of Frost, which is Frost School, get kicked on it, and then sheep. But I only have 2 seconds left on the sheep, so that I don't have enough time to cast a 1.5 second Ring of Frost, get kicked, and then cast a 1 point whatever a second sheep. There's not enough time for that. So I have to go for like the skill play basically. And this comes in form of casting a sheep, canceling the cast, and hoping that you fake the interrupt to fake him out and get the precog. And that's going to give you immunity. So the sheep is just over, but I am able to land the resheep here. And then with this precog that I still have, I land another one. And then I target the Siphene because I realize that they are popping huge damage on me, and now they have healing reduction on me. So the Siphene needs to die immediately. I have an alter time up, but I get strangulated. I'm not going to panic block here. I have alter time at 66%, and I'm in a string that can be dispelled when we have a dispel available. So I'm gonna not just panic here. So I also have meld, which I can press while in a silence, which is gonna help me cancel a channel or something. So there's a Mind Flay being channeled. I just meld it, and my healer is able to give me a fat shield. They did purge the altar, but I'm fine at this point. And you'll notice where I'm running. I'm running in a way where, so I have to play very defensive right now. I want to minimize how many people are able to attack me. So I run over here after I kill the Siphene with a 4 arcane charge barrage. So now I'm lining the priest. Only the DK can hit me now. And this forces them to have to push up a little bit, which is going to play right into our hands, because if they are pushed up, like you see, the whole team is on top of us now. So this is going to make our job a lot easier to get a go, because I have my damage back and the druid is pushed in, which means he's easier to CC. So this is a really good way to avoid damage, is by dragging people away, because you're minimizing, like only the DK can hit me if I were to be like standing right here. And the priest wouldn't be able to hit me, and I could still peek and get healed. You can see the DK is pretty smart. He knows to not get baited back here, so he runs away. And since he's running, I just opt to hit the closest target. So this is like where... Let me think about this for a second, but so like DK is technically the better target here because he doesn't have like AMS or IBF, right? He doesn't have like his major defensives, whereas the priest still has disperse. So it's like pretty, like on paper it'd be pretty bad to go priest here. Sometimes it's good though to, in order to maintain tempo, like right now for example, I need to send Magi because it lines up perfectly with Surge. So like my Surge is coming back in 40. If I like held Magi here with Chains of Ice on me and like tried to waddle towards the DK and be like, okay, I need to get this go perfect and put it on DK, it would mess up the tempo of the match a little bit because my Magi and my Surge would be malaligned. And based off of the momentum of this current game, it's telling me that like right now is our window to do damage because they just had a go. We survived it. So now it's our turn. So in order to match the tempo of the game, I have to just hit whoever I can. And right now that's the priest who's in my line. So I do a barrage Magi missiles with an interrupt on him as well. So now he can't even like fade, stun, silence, whatever, right? I hardcast some Arcane Blast right here because the DK is not in my line. So right now I view this as the perfect time to get my 2 blast off. And it also potentially generates me more clear castings. Because you can see for right now, I only have 1 entering the go. It's kind of bad to only have 1. You'll get 2 whenever you Magi here. And then when I consume 1, I have to actually cancel it early because I valued kicking him on the go. And then I have an Ether one. This is Ether Attunement. That's your big missiles. You never ever want to cancel those if you can. Sometimes you do have to, but I with this interrupt and with the DK not around me, I opt to I always try to get at least 2 blasts in on my Magi. So I try to get those in now. while DK's not looking at me. And then I need to cast this other attunement into my Magi, but the DK's on me. So what do? Well, I casted it and then I got blinded on it. So that sucks, right? And now they're kind of reversing the pressure on us. So that was unfortunate, right? But sometimes that's just the way it goes. And now I'm forced into ice block here. So what happens? So they have all their damaging cooldowns up. Pillar of Frost, Dark Ascension, my healers in clone. And I'm really, really low. So I trade ice block because it's major offensives, healers in CC. Now they cast Mass Dispel, so I'm out of block now. So I'm already, like, I'm not caught off guard by this, for one. I saw the Mass Dispel being casted. While that was the case, I looked down at my bars. I was like, okay, I don't have a barrier. I have blink, but if I blink, I'm going to be caught on global for the duration of that blink, and I'm probably going to die in it. So the first thing I need to do as soon as I leave block is get my damage reduction on. Now I have 60% damage reduction, and he life swaps me now. I get gripped back in. I'm just pressing barrage here because I have no other globals really. I'm just kind of waiting for this barrier. I start spam spell stealing some hots. I try doing some damage. I try casting a defensive polymorph. And we all die. So that was a really unfortunate game. Let's continue watching. So it's double melee. I think that getting the Evo up early here is going to be kind of the only time I can. Plus, I want to try to get the go first. I usually like when we get to start the game with our go first. That's like, you can see last game was not the case. We were on the back foot from the start of the game, and then we ended up losing the game. And I think that's pretty common if you're the one responding in the opener. So I always try my best at least to get the go first, which is why you want to be not super greedy with getting too many stacks here. So I evoed and I went for 3 tempos. I drop a ring on them because I want to CC them while I try to cast Arcane Surge. And this also acts as a peel for their go that they're about to do. Because I know that like double melee, when they run in like this, look at how they just full run at the priest. Right? So I'm an Arcane Mage. They're not attacking me. The melees are opting to attack the less mobile caster. So they're going to ride this SP the whole game. That's very obvious to me from the very start of the game just by their body language. So like people always play their mage and they're like, "Whoa, bro, I don't understand like how you never get trained, blah blah blah." It's like we'll get to that part later, but first of all, it's like just notice their body language, how fast they were to run at this priest, which means like they are pretty locked in on going this priest. They might like falter away from their plan if it's not working. They might try to like swap me and stuff if I play a little too over aggressive. But even from this very first interaction, I already know how I'm going to be playing for the rest of the game. And that's going to be, for one, I'm never going to be trained. So I need to make sure that when I set my damage windows up, I'm doing a lot of damage. And I need to also make sure I'm CCing the druid adequately. So I have 3 tempo stacks. I drop a ring here to peel for them. Then I get my surge off. I pop alter time here as well, just in case the DK were to grip me in. Because I want to keep my positioning over here. So I got my surge. I do a barrage magi missiles. And since I'm all the way over here alone, I pop my 2. Honestly, I should have just hard casted Arcane Blast instead of Palm. I go for an early Ice Wall into more missiles, into a Intuition proc barrage. I try to blink CS, but the druid is positioned well. I mass barrier my priest because he's getting a little bit low. And then I have an Ether Attunement proc with my Arcane Surge up. And I'm just doing a lot of damage here. You can see the Druid is healing through it quite nicely because I wasn't able to land my CC. And this was a mistake on my end. This is why I prefer Shimmer. I'm playing normal Blink here, which really hurts your ability to CC. So we can talk a little bit about Shimmer versus Blink now. So you can already see the difference in playstyle. So when you play normal Blink, which is this one here, which gives you access to ice flows, this is what your style of gameplay looks like, really. Like, you do unlimited damage, and like you basically just sit here and you just try to do unlimited damage is what I'm saying. And your ability to go for CC while you're doing damage is hurt severely. Because I can't just Shimmer on top of this Druid and DB him now, or like get a full sheep on him, right? It's very difficult because the normal Blink, this version of Blink has a global cooldown. So I can't really catch people off guard with CC. It's very hard for me to die with this because if I'm ever to get Storm Bolted or Remorseless Winter Stunned or Bashed or something, I can always blink out of it and always be able to press my buttons. And I can pretty much never die by doing that. So by playing normal Blink, what you're signing up for is never being able to die, but also never being able to CC. When you sign up for Shimmer, or when you play Shimmer, what you're signing up for is increases your capability of landing important crowd control by being able to CC healers with Shimmer. And I personally think that Shimmer is also very good defensively too, because it's off the global cooldown. So while you can be stunned, it's often difficult for people to even get to you to the point to stun you if you're using Shimmer, Alter, and Displacement and Blast Wave all efficiently. So basically, I made a mistake here by playing normal Blink, and you can see it on this first go. I'm doing a lot of damage, but I was not able to land any CC over the course of this damage, so it didn't really account for much. Then once the Druid happens to just kind of like fall into my lap a little bit in terms of positioning, like he kind of walks into me and I just kind of walk over to him sort of by accident. He's in Ancient of Lore form. So in this big tree form, they cannot be CC'd. Let me go back a little bit, show you guys the damage. Barrage Magi missiles, Palm Double Arcane. Again, they should have been normal casted ones. Another missiles here. Intuition proc, I send that in. Another barrage here to get the second Nether Precision. Missiles, Mass Barrier. I have to use a defensive global because I noticed my priest is getting so low. Casting Blast to try to generate more clear castings, but I canceled it. Missiles, Blast, Blast, Missiles, Barrage, Barrage. Orb here to get back to 4 stacks of Arcane Charges, into another Missiles, into another Intuition proc, which I'll consume with Barrage again. And then I'll do another Barrage to consume the second Precision. Then I go back into Missiles, and I get full combo points through High Voltage doing that. Then I send another Barrage into another Barrage for the second Nether Precision. Hopefully you guys are following that, probably not though. Then I get another Orb going out, because I need to get back to 4 charges. Then I do another Missiles. Now that I'm 4 charges here, I go 2 Blasts, into more Missiles, into 2 Blasts. I don't want a Barrage here because I don't have a way to generate charges back since I'm out of Orbs. But since I get an Intuition here, I can Barrage if I wanted to, which I should have, which I do. Now I'm casting a Sheep. I get bashed on it. I Trinket out and put the Druid into a DB Sheep here. Actually, DB Ring. Now that I have CC, I need to start trying to kill. So I have a Magi here in a couple seconds. I hard cast an Arcane Blast. Only at 2 charges though, it's kind of bad. And I Barrage to maintain my 5 tempo stacks. I'm trying to cast the Resheep. And you'll see here what I do. This is something that you guys need to get in the habit of. So when the warrior charges to me and I'm casting the Re, I cancel it when he gets to me. Because a lot of the time they're going to have an interrupt. And a lot of people are just going to use their interrupt on their mobility option like that, like charge kick. Now, in this case, what I did here is bad because the warrior doesn't even have an interrupt thanks to my omnibar. I know that. But in the moment, I made a blunder, and I didn't look at it omnibar. I just assumed he had it, which a lot of people I think do that. They assume every time. So be looking at your omnibar there. So I go for the read now, and the druid trinkets it, and he gets really low, so that you guys can see the importance of landing CC and shuffle. It's very, very important. All right, so I pop a late Magi because we have good momentum right now. I do 2 palm double arcane blasts into a barrage, into a missiles. The druid has a kick. Honestly, not a lot of druids are doing that, but it's a flop, so he's really good. And then you can see here I'm locked on Arcane. He kicked me on missiles, guys. And then he's threatening me with a clone. So I'm kicked on Arcane. I can't really avoid it. I could blast wave it, but he's kind of far. So I just opt to shadow meld it to drop the cast. That's why Night Elf is so good. Because if I got full clone there, I was off DR with no trinket. I would have had to block that offensively. He stuns me. I have an intuition proc here, so I send my Magi in. And when I blink, I run to the right to range the clone. And then he cancels it. Because he's like, oh fuck, I need to catch up on healing now. And then he goes for the Iron Bark. I'm casting Arcane Blast here because I need to generate clear castings. At some point I need to get a Shifting Power off too. And then once I notice the DK pops his big one shot, I try to knock him off. And I start trying to get distance from them as well because they're swapping me. I go for a barrier. Actually, I get cloned, but remember at the start of the game, I know their strategy already. They want to go my priest. They've made that blatantly obvious with their body language, and they've been going him the whole game. So I block the clone because I know I can't sit that clone. Like that's going to be too much of a tempo loss, and I can live without ice block. I have barrier, alter, blink, displace, and wall. So I block the clone, miss the kick on the re, and then my priest dies here, unfortunately. Okay, now I think this is a really good game. We'll make this the last one, I think. But, no, maybe we'll do the whole thing. I don't know yet. But you can see the start of the game. I got my Evo up. I did 2 barrages. Then I started casting Arcane Surge. I have an Intuition proc. I Magi Missiles. Palm. Blink. Arcane Blast. Missiles. Look at this, guys. This is the thing we just talked about with the charge, right? Missiles. So I get stunned. I'm still playing normal blink. I blink out. I missiles again. He charges me. I cancel as soon as he gets on me, and I get precog. So that's a very good habit for you guys to pick up, is to cancel the cast when someone uses a mobility option on you like that. That's called faking an interrupt. Now I'm at 100% HP with precog up. I pop alter time and I displace back. So that's going to make it to where I leave my location over here and I create distance immediately. And I'm still able to do a lot of damage now. So the DK kind of has them in a blender. I have my damage rolling and he's in a strangulate. So I put a Ring of Frost down because I recognize how difficult it is going to be to CC this druid. Because my DK, it kind of doesn't, like with Frost DK, it kind of doesn't work like that as much, where you just get like a clean CC. Because Frost DK's go is like grip, blind, and like blender everyone. Blender as in like triple kill the whole team. So I just put a Ring of Frost down as like a form of micro CC. And it does hit him, but it like just breaks in a second. So that's kind of like as much CC as I can contribute for the go, unless I also ice wall. But I need to focus on damage first and foremost. So Barrage, Magi Missiles, Palm Arcane Blast, Missiles, Fake Interrupt, Displace back, second Palm Arcane Blast into Ring of Frost here with Ice Flows, so I can move away from the warrior at the same time. Then I go back into Missile spamming. Then I go to Barrage, or Arcane Blast into Barrage, which procs an orb through Orb Barrage. Then I go back into missiles because I have an Ether Attunement missiles and he's getting really low. So my thought is I can channel this missiles and then execute barrage him, which I try to do right there, but it didn't quite get him in execute range. alter back here, and now I try to spell steal a lot here to potentially get power infusion. Also, I got feared right here. Right here. And he is casting Dark Ascension, which is his one-shot, or like his damaging cooldown. But since we have such disgusting momentum here, I want to try to extend it for as long as possible. So I Trinket CS him and go for more spell steals. And since he was kind of low in execute range, I threw a barrage there too. Now I need more arcane charges here, so I go for an orb. And I start blasting to get a little bit more. So I'm at 3. I get silenced. There isn't a dispel on it, so I just have to kind of sit here and do nothing. And then now our go is over. We don't really have any more momentum, so I need to try to minimize the amount of damage I take. So I'm going to run away from these people now and try to get away from this warrior. I Nova him, and then I started casting a shifting power with ice flows, but then he gnomes out and kicks me, so that's something you guys want to be careful of too. So I'm just trying to get away from this warrior right now. I DB him while I'm kicked on Arcane, which is kind of bad because I can't follow it up with a sheep now. And I go start barraging here because I'm trying to build up tempo stacks, but it's a bad time to do that because there's a Safe Fiend on me and he just feared my healer, blah, blah, blah. I blink because I have OP barrier, like the effect here. Right there. So when I use that, it'll give me immunity to damage and invisibility, which with playing the Incantation of Swiftness also gives you crazy movement speed. So I kill the Siphene with the missiles there. I start casting Arcane Blast because I'm trying to get a second clear casting before I use my Magi. So I send in a barrage. There's another barrage. So I'm stacking up my tempo here, trying to make sure I get a nice go here. I need to send this kind of soon to stay on curve with this. You want to match, like, this is 43 right now, and this is 45, so I try to send it here. I also get a Surge proc, which is insane. So I do a Barrage Magi. Fortunately, I can't get my missiles off because the warrior decided to bother me again. So now the warrior's back on me. So I have to kind of adjust my game plan with that in mind, right? I can't just sit here and do damage like a turret now, right? So I blink out of the stun, which again, this is why being blink stun is nice sometimes because you're pretty immortal with it. It just really hurts your ability to CC ever. So that's why you can see in these games I'm not like breaking my neck trying to CC the druid every game. I'm just sitting back and doing damage. Now, I think this is an inferior way to play. I think playing Shimmer and just like doing damage like in the first game and then with that damage threatening CC on the healer is the most consistent way to play in Shuffle. So that's what I recommend everyone doing. However, in some lobbies, like against our druid where it's very difficult to CC, sometimes I'll do this strategy with normal blink. But in non-our druid lobbies, I think you should be Shimmer and playing, you know, for that CC. But again, against this R druid, it's very hard for you to just get natural CC like that. So I'm just going for more of a do damage and survive strategy. So I'm able to blink out of the warrior's stun and I get away from him. So I go for my missile spam. Then you can see the warrior's on me and he used his mobility and I didn't cancel. So I got pummeled. So I blast wave him off me since it's a different school. I drop a Ring of Frost on myself so I can kind of CC him a little. And then he Blade Storms it. My tempo stacks are falling. I pop Alter Time. Oh, I don't refresh them. That's bad. And then I just start hitting the warrior because the priest has Iron Bark on him. So you can see he has Magi on him, but then he barks. And it's at like 50% too, right? So Bark is like a pretty big damage reduction. It's going to be very difficult to kill through that, especially because this is the lesser Magi go. This isn't the Surge one. This is just like the in-between one. So it's not going to be like as crazy damage. So I'm not going to be able to kill through that Iron Bark or anything. So I'm just trying to minimize how much damage I take now while also hitting the closer target just to kind of minimize damage. But honestly, since that was our go and their go is now coming, this would be a really, really good time to sheep the warrior. because you can see here's the torrent, right? Which I should meld. Yep, meld it. This would be a pretty decent time when you would want to sheep DPS. Like, this is the part of the game where, like, sheeping the off target is generally pretty good, right? Like, you just did a go, you just did damage, you pushed in, you tried to get CC, blah blah blah. Okay, damage is over, we got Iron Bark. Let me pull back and start to sheep this like third DPS that you're not really hitting, right? But again, this I picked this lobby for a reason. This isn't the best lobby. You can see, like, sometimes this kind of happens in Shuffle too, where games don't really go perfectly. This is an example. Where this is sort of a messy game, right? Like, I didn't sheep the warrior there because the priest had his like Void Weaver orb on him. So it's like, in Shuffle, sometimes you have to like adjust on the fly, even though the momentum of the game says sheep warrior here, because they're about to do a go. I kind of can't because my disc priest is trying to crank him right now. So I have to kind of adjust a little bit. I just sit back here and just hit him too a little. And I need to try to also avoid their go. So I get stunned. I have a displace. Warrior's back on me. I knock him off. I root him. DB him. Here's Spear. So, yep. He has a full go on me right here because I was never able to sheep him. And now there's a Siphon on me, so I press my greater invisibility, and I'm just trying to kite out of the line of the priest because I want them to have to push on us now. So I isolate the warrior over here, and this is where I change my game plan a little bit, because even though it's better for, like, it's more like aligned with the game plan to go these two targets over here where my DK is killing them. This priest is kind of putting me in a position by spam hitting warrior, like, and never letting me CC him, that I just opt to go the warrior now. So I change my game plan and I just start hitting the warrior here. So I do Barrage Magi missiles with Arcane Surge, missiles, Palm Arcane Blast, Barrage, go for the late Ice Wall. Again, you can always see that. You can always see that pattern. Remember at the beginning I talked about there's a pattern of damage in CC. This is very common on Arcane, where you do like a lot of the damage that you can do into your Magi, and then you kind of go for that CC as it's about to pop. Keeping my distance. We have a lot of pressure here on both targets. I start casting an Arcane Blast, but the warrior charges to me, so I cancel it, and I didn't get precog. I can just blink out of that stun. I press Alter Time now. I alter back, and this gives me another blink charge, which I'll probably use here in a second. So you can see here, I go for an aggressive play. I have full Sheep DR on the whole team. I have Alter up. I have Ice Flows up. My knock didn't work, so I'm trying to get these guys off me. I Nova, and then he Blade Storms, and they can kick while they're in Blade Storm. And a lot of warriors kind of bank off the fact that you don't know that they can do that. So I'm casting Sheep, and I cancel it, and the warrior kicks and gives me precog. So now I'm casting Sheep on the druid, even though he's in travel form, because it, like, a lot of druids will shift out of form, and you can kind of get him. Since he goes on the corner, what I try to do is I try to free Ring of Frost him. Normally this works, but it's flop, so he's actually like the best druid. So I blink, and I'm threatening him with my movement and my positioning. I don't really have a play here. I can't really get him into that ring, right? I don't have Blast Wave, even though I'm spamming it. But I'm just kind of threatening him with movement and positioning here. Like, I'm just running at him and scaring him a little bit, because I need to try to get some type of CC here, because this is kind of our go, or it should be, but I'm playing normal blinks, so it's like hard to get one. So we get a blind. I'm spam spell stealing to try to get power infusion. They get a fear on my healer, and I'm forced into block. Now we overlapped. He trinket swapped me as well. That's gonna happen in Shuffle quite a bit. You're gonna overlap with your healer and stuff. So now I need to play. Now at this point, once we overlap like that, I know that there is no more room, like, for tanking damage. So they have their trinkets anyways. Like they have trinket swap, they have trinket wall, they have trinket whatever. Like this isn't going to be a game 1 on CC anymore. And this is when I noticed that. So I am now like dedicating the rest of my game to playing very defensive because of that overlap. We have no more get out of jail free cards with block and swap. So the name of the game from this point on, the later in the shuffle, right? This shuffle's been going on for almost 3 minutes. Dampening is at 52%. A lot of these things like trinkets and, you know, walls and damage reduction doesn't matter as much anymore. So I'm just now trying to get as much damage out as I can. So this is like a adjustment on the fly here, right? So I missiles, and then once the warrior gets closer to me, I cancel it, and I get more precog. This is a skill that you guys really need to get good at if you're trying to play an Arcane Mage. I channel missiles into my Magi here. I get stunned. I blink. There's a clone being casted, but he's just out of range of counterspell. I kick the Halo because kicking damage at this point is more important. It's such a race on damage now that dampening is so high that stopping damage and doing damage is like the main thing I'm thinking about right now. The warrior has no kick. I'm missling, but the warrior is cranking me, so I really need to prioritize getting him off me. So I value a displacement global here. And then now that he charges me, he shockwaves me, and I need to get him off me again. He has no kick for 1. I sheep him. He gets dispelled and he blade storms, but I get luckily cloned on it. I barrier, it breaks. I fake the missiles again. You got to be very careful in these situations. Like a lesser Arcane Mage here is dead because he's gonna like press sheep or missiles here, right? I sheep barrier, but dampening is so high, the barrier is so small, it just breaks instantly. I missiles, but with the intent of not doing damage, but with canceling it and getting precog. So I cancel it and I get precog. I have to blink because it gives me damage reduction or damage immunity with OP barrier. And I cast a polymorph on the druid because at this point in the game, you can feel the intensity rising, right? So it's a lot harder for the druid to like shift CC when every single global at 60% dampening matters so much that even just casting sheep on the druid here and forcing him to have to use like a travel form global is such a big deal because that's one global that they aren't spending on healing. So he can't really afford to like shift very easily here. So I do land the sheep, but I am positioning in a way now where I'm taking a lot of damage because I pushed in, right? So I DB these people and I try to run away. I alter back another shimmer. This is something that you do pretty often with alter when you're low. You don't use alter for health so much when you're low. Use it to preserve health, right? So right now I don't have a lot of health. Like altering at 38%, I can't really, like I would have to get to like 1% and then alter back for it to be a good one, right? So instead, I just double tap it, which grants you another blink charge. So I just use that to get away again. And then I go for a shifting power here because I need to really try to get to my next barrier since it gives you immunity to damage when it breaks. I stand on this pillar and I cast a ring to where if anyone tries to get around this corner, they get rung. And then I walk around as he walks into it. He trinkets out of it. I try to blast wave him further, but he gets caught on this little hill, which sucks. And the warrior has a kick. Here's the spear. Luckily it missed. I don't know how. I need to try to get this surge off. I do it here with a Nova on the warrior. He avatars out. The surge went off. I Magi, which you can do through Fade apparently. And then I go for my last damage. Like this is going to be the game-winning amount of damage here. We lived till the final surge. I do Palm, Arcane Blast 2 times, missiles, barrage, blink, missiles, barrage, and he's dead. Yep. So that's an example of like being trained the whole game. You can see like I'm not doing right. I'm doing just as much damage as everyone else. I'm not doing like carry damage like in the other games where I'm left alone basically. Like this game, where's the one where I was with the SP? Yeah, like this game I'm the top pretty much the whole game because no one's looking at me, right? But in this game, when I'm like being trained by this warrior and I'm just playing blink stun, so I'm never playing to die and I don't have good CC the whole game, it's very like messy. That's going to be like kind of a standard blink stun game where you're being trained. And then we will watch this game now. So again, they just go right on the priest. So their body language again is just the same thing. I cast the surge. I didn't go for any tempo stacks. I just went for the evo and a surge. Because a priest is going to be a lot easier to CC here. So this is going to be really good for us. Again, I should be shimmer. I'm just playing bad. Not changing talents. Probably distracted by the stream chat or whatever. I pop barrage magi missiles. I go for the early ice wall because I don't want him to be able to play this corner. I want him to have to push up to me. So now he can't play that corner. I'm doing more damage with missiles, palm, arcane blast. He walks in my line, DB sheep. I have ice flows up in case I get gripped. Full sheep, back to doing missile spam. Missiles, barrage, barrage, missiles, mass barrier, re-sheep, more missiles, one more sheep, missiles, palm arcane blast, missiles, barrage, barrage. Now, here's where I would be trying to kick healer, but he's positioned very well. So I try to change my positioning and like blink CS him on this. Very easy to do if you're shimmer. Not so easy if you're normal blink. So he's penanting, mind blast, void blast, blink CS. Then with that blink CS, I don't like him playing this pillar because it makes it hard to do stuff. So I knock him in the middle. This also puts him in a position that's closer to my druid. So I'm really putting this guy in a bad spot. He can't fade. He's locked on shadow. So he gets stunned, and then my druid switches the clone. So perfect. And the whole time I'm sitting here just doing damage. So blink CS, knock. I have a clear casting. I barrage to maintain tempo. I orb to build stacks. I missiles. I don't have any clear castings. So I blast to generate some. There's also a zone down. So this is kind of a, not a time to burst, but a time to like prepare your burst. So I'm just blasting to try to fish for clear castings. I orb here just to generate a little bit more. And then I shifting power to try to get to my magi. You can see I use my movement a little bit to avoid DK interrupts right here. Because I have, you don't want to get kicked on shifting power. So I shift and I'm standing right here. The DK is about to come in line. So I move with it and I go directly, like I never get in his line of sight when I'm casting it. I barrage him. I spell steal. What I'm aiming for was that big power word shield. I'll show you again. So against Disc Priest, you can do this a lot. Like, you can see it gets a big power word shield on him. And it's only 2 buffs. So I press spell steal. And I didn't get it. Actually, I don't know what I got. Weird. But my druid cleanse him low, which is amazing. The druid trinkets it. The healer is off sheep DR. He has no fade. He only has death. So what you want to do a lot in these situations is like cast it and then cancel it and fake death. Sometimes when they're under a lot of pressure or you have a lot of haste or they're on global, you don't have to fake death. Right here, I don't have a lot of haste. I don't have PI and I don't have time warp. So I was banking off the fact that his DK was so low that death was not going to be a global that he could afford. But he did death it. I was able to knock him. Like, since I noticed that he deathed it, I pressed Blast Wave to try to knock him on the other side of the pillar, which worked, actually. It made his sphere not hit me. Then I Nova'd him over here, because now his next global has to be Dispel, and I'm able to sheep him while he's on Dispel. So I get the other sheep. Then I do Barrage Magi, but I did it into AMS, so be careful not to Magi into AMS. And I get one more sheep here. And now I want to stay near him for Counterspell. So he casts a penance there, and I try to kick it, but he cancels it early and fakes me. So well played there. Now I just do damage. So missiles, barrage, blast, 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 barrage, orb, trinket, blink out, alter in case re-blink or regrip, blast, blast. I have another attunement. I spend that. 2 more blasts, barrage. There's an intuition proc there. So I'm just doing damage here. CC duration or CC DR is coming off. This is going to be how the game feels when you're not being trained, right? Like you need to be doing a lot of damage and you need to be CCing off DR. And ideally you want to peel these DPS a bit more too. Like this game I'm not peeling DPS at all, but in this downtime, like right here when the sheep is done, this would be a really ideal time to sheep warrior. I'm just now realizing in this game I never actually shept the off target once, which is something that like you really want to do. I'm not gonna lie, like you definitely want to sheep the off DPS quite often, like, but you don't want to do it at the wrong times. You want to do it whenever like you're done. Like you get the sheep here, right? You're CCing the healer, you're bullying him on the go, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you have big damage. And then it's like, okay, that's our momentum. We're good. I miss my kick now and then it gets topped. So it's kind of like the end of our momentum a little bit. He is getting kind of low though. Okay, blind. Okay, now they're trying to do their go with the blind. So I would want to spam sheep and like try to mess up their go a little bit. But instead I'm just doing damage the whole time. The reason why I think in this lobby is because this priest is Void Weaver. So I'm just telling you guys why in this specific example, why I'm doing damage in this situation. But like the thing with Void Weaver is like Void Weaver disc is it falls behind really hard. So my idea was to just do endless damage. But like in a normal game versus like a meta healer where it's not Void Weaver disc, you would want to sheep off DPS here. Off DPS meaning the guy you weren't training. Since we're going to DK and we have all his cooldowns, I don't want to sheep him. We're going to sheep the other DPS and give my SP some room to breathe a little bit. So I try to push on healer here. I fake death right here with this sheep cast, you'll see. So I push on the healer here, cast sheep, cancel it, and then he deaths. Then I go for a DB sheep. He has a moonfire, but DB actually doesn't break on 1 damage anymore for some reason. So I get the sheep, then I do a barrage, missiles, resheep, orb, resheep. I wanted to ice wall here, but we got a pain suppression there though. Nice. Tempo stacks are about to fall. I refresh. Now I have Evo and I have Magi and I have Surge. So I Surge, Evo. Should have done that other way. Since he has AMS and I want to press Magi this global, I can't, right? So I have to break it first. So I missiles first. Then I do my barrage Magi missiles. Since he's on sheep DR, I can't follow up this fear. So I place an ice wall down. Palm Arcane Blast. Double. More missiles. 2 Arcane Blast. Barrage. I block this fear. He's trying to kick me. You don't want to give him precog here, guys. It's losing, but that's the difference between winning and losing the game here. So I just sheep him because it's just safer than trying to kick him. And then I just spam barrage until he dies. We can watch one more round here. So I go for some Ultra Greed on the opener here. 5 tempo stacks. Also meld the Shadow Crash again because you saw it in the air. I finally realized that I should be Shimmer, by the way, and I switched. So yeah, meld the Shadow Crash. When a DK grips you in the start, he always wants to blind with it. So I Shimmer, which like kind of makes you always avoid the blind if you press it. Then I alter over here in case he wants to regrip, which he does. And then he instantly dispels me and I'm able to alter back in a sec. But instead I try to prioritize getting CC But that's not good, right? You want to do damage first, then CC. So I kick him on Void Torrent, the priest, so that he can't use defensive cooldowns or stop me from bursting. The DK is kind of far from me, so I'm not faking casts, I'm just going for them. I didn't fake death here because, like I said, sometimes when people are under a lot of pressure, you don't even have to fake death. Something to also note, you don't have to fake death when you have a lot of haste, too. So keep in mind I have a PI here. So my globals are so fast that, like, a lot of the times you can see he pressed Void Wraith thing. Okay, then he penances. Like, a lot of the times people can't react in time when you have like 5 tempo stacks and PI. The sheep cast is just so fast that there's no point to fake the death, because they have to be like a actual god to like fake it or to death it there. I do missiles, barrage, mass barrier to keep us offensive. DK has an interrupt here, so I shimmer mid cast to guarantee the re. Then I missiles while he's still far. Then the DK's on me, so I kind of fake out that sheep and I get precog, right? So we all seeing that, we're all watching that, right? So that's how you get more cooldowns in the opener, by getting precog, right? So you get the resheep with shimmer, then you missiles because he's still too far. Then you see him running towards you, right, with a kick, and you need to get another sheep. So you cast it, you fake it, you get the precog, and now you have the ability to channel the other attunement missiles without an interrupt. But he disperses. So I'm just casting blast, trying to get more. He clones him low there. He's casting here, but no CS is available. DR is not off for a while. I would sheep off DPS here, but we have pressure on both, so no need. I cast an ice wall here because I don't have any DRs. I tried to ring here too on the edge, but then I realized he's on DR, so it's not worth it. I lose my arcane tempo, but it's fine. Now that the healer's off DR and we have such insane pressure, I cancel the wall and cast sheep in his face. And I wasn't even going to fake the death, but the DK luckily gripped me. So that was nice. So the death got faked, essentially. We need to kill the Siphon here. Actually, we don't need to. I mean, usually you should. So I see the stun that the druid gave me, and I cast a Ring of Frost on it. Then I cast Blast. I trinket out. Blink on top. I get stranged. I block it offensively because we win here. Because he's so low and the SB has no swap and the disc has swap but no trinket. And I know that he's going to cast that reclone. Boom. And he's dead. So, yeah. Hope you guys learned something from this. Let me know if you did. Let me know if you didn't. I hope you guys enjoyed this portion of the guide, the gameplay breakdown. This is going to be quite a long one, boys, but yep, that's what happens when you're trying to learn a spec and WoW. You want to make good content around it. It's going to take some time. Alright, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Alright, that's all there is, boys. Peace out. See you in Azeroth.